One of the big questions hanging over Westminster politics right now is whether Rishi Sunak could be ousted as Tory leader and Prime Minister before the next general election. The first thing you need to think about is the process for getting rid of a Tory leader. The Conservative Party has what is in effect a trigger system, where if 1 in 7 of their MPs want the leader gone, they could be. It works by a system of no confidence letters, which are put into the 1922 committee, a body of backbenchers run by Sir Graham Brady. On the current numbers, that means that 53 Tory MPs would need to submit one of these letters to trigger a no confidence vote. The challenge is they're all done in private, so how you really know how many people have done so is always tricky. If that happens, then a thumbs up, thumbs down vote is held on the leader. To survive, Rishi Sunak would need to win a simple majority. That means half of his MPs who vote plus one. The problem is, even winning that vote doesn't necessarily mean he will, in the long run, remain leader. Theresa May, back in 2018, won the vote, but 37% of Tory MPs who voted went against her. She was gone within 6 months.
But it is now clear to me that it is in the best interests of the country for a new Prime Minister to lead that effort.
And Boris Johnson in 2022 won, but 41% of his MPs voted against him. He was gone within a month.
As we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves.
So, when trying to understand how much danger Rishi Sunak is in, you have to try and understand how many letters have already been submitted. The truth is it's impossible to know. Only one man, Sir Graham Brady, knows the real number, and he is famously tight-lipped. Tory MPs have no need at all to be truthful or to go public if they have submitted a letter. In the past, there have been reports that some MPs have publicly said they support the leader and privately put in a letter. Also, they can put in a letter and then withdraw it at any time, meaning keeping track for journalists is really hard.
Prime Minister, your poll ratings are back to where they were during the trust debacle. You've got all these disloyal MPs saying you should just quit. So why don't you let one of your disloyal colleagues have the poison chalice?
Look, I'm not interested in all Westminster politics. It doesn't matter.
But there are some public indications of where the state of the party might be. For example, who has publicly called for Rishi Sunak to go as leader? Currently, just 2 Tory MPs have done that, Andrea Jenkins and Sir Simon Clarke. That means when you need to get to 53 on public declarations alone, they're way off the number. And indeed, when we talk to some fervent rebels who want Rishi Sunak gone, they privately admit that they may not hit that number at all. But none of that should be mistaken for the idea that Tory MPs aren't pretty disillusioned with where they are right now. Some of them are arguing for a potential leadership switch. When we talk to them, they tend to put forward 3 arguments. 1, the opinion polls. Currently, the Tories are about 20 percentage points behind Labour. That is a huge gap. For context, Tony Blair ended up winning by just 13 percentage points in that huge 1997 victory.
Thank you. Thanks, Aslamka. Thank you very much indeed.
And the polls are getting worse, not better. Reform, the party to the right of the Tories, have roughly doubled support in a year and are creeping up on them. Meanwhile, the Tory vote share is dropping and dropping.
I do hereby declare that George Galloway is duly elected.
20 percentage points is about where the Tories were in the late weeks of Liz Truss in that premiership that ended so shortly. In fact, it's pretty hard when you talk to Tory MPs privately to find anyone who thinks currently they have a chance of winning the next election.
Why is the Prime Minister so scared to call an election?
A second argument put forward by critics is whether Rishi Sunak really is an election-winning campaigner. For his strength as an administrator, a policy-maker, does he really have the vote-winning razzmatazz for the campaign trail?
All right, morning. How's everyone doing? Good?
They point to the fact he actually lost against Liz Truss in the vote of Tory members for their leader back in the summer of 2022. As Labour likes to say, he lost to the woman who lost to a lettuce. So as Tory MPs are looking for someone who can somehow turn around the dynamic of the polls, they wonder, can Rishi really do it on the campaign trail? The third argument is, to be honest, desperation. If you're a Tory MP with a vote majority of less than 10,000, you are nervous that you are about to see your frontline political career come to an end. Some of them wonder, well, why not throw the dice? It looks like I'm going to lose under the current leadership, so why not take another gamble? Indeed, one of the clearest signs there is some political danger is what would-be leadership contenders are doing themselves. Penny Mordaunt has been touring Tory associations, Suella Braverman is doing a lot in the press. Other figures like Robert Jenrick and Grant Shapps are said to be buttering up Tory MPs. This is a sign that potentially they think there could be a gap in the coming months, if not after the election. With that being said, there is one huge reason why a lot of Tory MPs are reluctant to act against Rishi Sunak that could ultimately prove his saviour. And that is that so much of the public, they think, would not welcome but ridicule another switch of Tory leader in this Parliament. It would be the third time between general elections that the Tories changed leader, getting rid of first Boris Johnson.
There will be many people who are relieved.
Then Liz Truss.
That I am resigning.
And again Rishi Sunak.
But them's the breaks.
That's unprecedented in office, and a lot of Tory MPs think however much they're frustrated with the current situation, switching leader would just make things worse. Add to that a couple of other critical factors. For one, Rishi Sunak's political strength has actually been in the parliamentary party rather than the membership. Remember, he won the position of Prime Minister without going to Tory members. That's a different situation to Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, who ultimately Tory MPs were willing to move against, more than perhaps they would be for Rishi Sunak. And then there's the fact that so many Tory MPs are quitting frontline politics altogether. More than 60 have announced they're standing down at the general election. Do they really want to go through a whole nother bout of regicide? It appears not, talking to some of them. Ben Wallace said recently it's time to put on your best suit and walk towards the gunfire. And then it's worth noting a threat made by some Sunak allies. If Tory MPs really do come for him, he'll call a general election. That's in his gift and could ultimately thwart any attempted plot. For those reasons, it's looking unlikely that, despite all the noise and speculation, Rishi Sunak will ultimately be forced out. But it's worth bearing in mind two other possibilities. One, the May local elections. The Tories are expecting a drubbing. Some independent forecasters have predicted they could lose as many as half of their seats up for re-election. That is what rebels and Sunak allies alike see as the danger zone, those weeks after the May elections on May the 2nd. And secondly, the looming presence of Nigel Farage. Currently, the former UKIP leader and honorary president of Reform is taking a hands-off approach to the campaign.
So are you planning to stand for Reform or stay at the
Oh, I'm very happy with life as it is. Thank you very much indeed.
He's not running himself, and he's not currently leader of Reform. That's Richard Tice. But there is the possibility, which Farage keeps teasing, that he could return to the fray, either running to be an MP or taking a more prominent role in Reform.
Who knows what's going to happen?
That is the situation that Tory MPs are dreading. They fear it could see Reform surge in the polls and the Tories continue to drop. If there was a crossing over point where Reform skipped ahead of the Tories, then all bets are off.
The truth is, the Tories are terrified.
For now, it all seems to come down to that May moment. If Rishi Sunak can survive into the summer, he'll likely make it to the general election. Westminster Source is a video series for the Telegraph telling you what's really happening in British politics. If you want daily updates, please do go to the website or the Telegraph app for the latest news and analysis. And if there's a topic you want us to cover, please leave a comment below.